Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into Coffee Break, presented by Bathfitter. Will Peterson, DMAC, Rachel Veal, all hanging out with you as the madness has officially begun. First game started at 10:15. Gentlemen, who you got winning your bracket? Because I never feel confident in these things, so I just kind of roll with it. Will, who you got?
I have the University of Arizona winning my bracket. They looked really good in the Pac-12 tournament, and I feel like this year's pretty wide open. So while it's not taking a 6 seed, taking a 2 seed, I'm happy to do it. We'll see, but go Wildcats, I guess.
I am. I guess I can't lie. I have the Arizona Wildcats winning as well. So I know that sounds pretty boring. I haven't beaten Kansas, so I guess I could take Kansas. I suppose I could go with a Christian Brown, Denver sort of combo meal there. But I don't root for Arizona whatsoever. I'm an Arizona State guy, and but as you know, when you do your bracket, you keep going. You look at it and like, oh, there you are. So I got him winning too. Will, look at that. How about that?
Wait, and T-Mac, you have Arizona over Kansas?
Yeah.
That's what I have too. We suck. We suck. Because now it's going to be the final, and you and I are going to tie in the bracket challenge at the office.
All right. Here's what's funny is I have Arizona also winning it. But I was sitting there and I had Arizona versus Kansas, and I was like, there's just no way. Like, I just can't picture it, yada, yada. My heart was like, they're going to do it. And my head was like, no, that's like too obvious. So I switched it for Texas instead. Another like very basic school to, of course, make it all the way. But so I have Arizona and Texas with Arizona winning it. So I'm glad we're all kind of on the same page.
Here's what's fun. At what point do you have your school, Missouri, losing, Will?
Well, Missouri plays Arizona in the second round, so I got bad news for my Tigers. They're on the same side of the bracket over there, so that will be a bummer. But it's insane. It is insane that the three of us all have the same champion when so many people have Alabama and Houston and Purdue and yada yada yada. What are the odds? If Jake Shapiro also has Arizona, I will be stunned because we did not talk about this.
No.
And I saw only like 2.3% of people in the country picked Arizona, so
Wow.
the three of us are in the 2.3%.
Wow, that's crazy.
Jake has Kansas winning it, so.
Yeah, I have Arizona State losing to Gonzaga in the second round, but I got them beating somebody, whoever they play in the first round. I don't know. They play somebody.
TCU in Denver.
I got them beating TCU. I got a little bit of a mild upset beating TCU, and that's tomorrow night in Denver. So they won last night. They beat Nevada easily. So Mountain West, suck it.
That they did. Yeah, my Rams aren't in the tournament, so I'm voting for Grand Canyon, which is where I worked previously before coming here. I worked for the Western Athletic Conference, but I also have them losing tomorrow night. So.
Well, hey, listen, I'm rooting for Grand Canyon to beat Gonzaga because then my Sun Devils can beat up on GCU. Mm-hmm. We can have a battle of the desert. They're only Grand Canyon and Arizona State. They may be 5 or 6 miles apart geographically in Phoenix. So.
True.
That'd be great. I'd be all for that, Rachel. We go. Hold on, GCU. Hang on.
If you get this, I'll be shocked.
Hang on. I can see it. Oh gosh, what are they?
The Horned Frogs.
No, that's TCU. Nope. GCU. Gosh, I don't know. What are they?
GCU.
You see, and Jake's so funny. Jake just said it to me in the background, and I'm like, Jake, I got this one. Don't worry, my friend. It's the Lopes, all right? We know about the Lopes, the antelopes. Yep, it's the Lopes. I got that one. I covered them enough. Trust me.
And South Dakota State is the Jackrabbits, and North Dakota is the Bison. And yeah, the Lopes. Oh, I should have got that. Oh, I'm mad at myself for not getting that.
It's the Lopes, man. What can we say? All right, well, let's move on to the Colorado Avalanche because I actually did not have the opportunity to watch the game last night, but holy smokes, I saw the highlights, and Nathan McKinnon, let me make sure I can say his name right, Will. Boom, beautiful shootout goal. Love to see it.
Yeah, he was the guy who got the goal in the shootout, which was awesome. But the story to me of the shootout was Georgie, because he stopped all 3 Toronto Maple Leafs, including a couple superstars in Austin Matthews and his gang up there. Listen, they held the Toronto Maple Leafs, one of the most high-powered offenses in the NHL, to 19 shots in 65 minutes.
Wow.
That is ridiculous. That is a grinded out type win that we're not used to with these Avalanche, particularly this year, that they kind of played more loosey-goosey type deal. That felt like a playoff game last night. So, yes, McKinnon scoring in the shootout was huge. Georgie stopping all three was big. But bigger picture, giving up 19 shots in 65 minutes and winning a game 2-1, that's how they're going to have to win playoff games. That, to me, was a really encouraging one, particularly without Arturi Lehkonen and his broken finger.
Yep.
Outstanding game by the Avs. They were down 1-0. They got a little lucky on Mikko's first goal. Went off a defender of Toronto. But what a gutsy win, man. And the Avalanche kind of stink in shootouts. They really do. They're not very good for whatever reason. So you got an extra point because you won in a dopey shootout. I hate shootouts. I think they should just play more overtime hockey of 4-on-4. I think they should play 2 5-minute 4-on-4 overtimes. Make it real hockey. And if it's a tie, it's a tie. You know, I mean, only one team walks away with 2 points. Why can't 2 teams walk away with 1 point? I just think that there's just too much effort and energy that goes into a game to award an entire point. And I'll tell you something else that's dopey. He doesn't get credit for that goal. Why? Like, why doesn't he get credit for a goal in the shootout? But he doesn't. So I don't like shootouts. I think they're stupid. I thought they used to be cool. I used to like 3-on-3. I don't. 2 5-minute 4-on-4 periods, golden goal, first goal wins, and that's that. That's how I'd improve hockey. But that being said, who gives a crap what I think? It was awesome that they got 2 points. Good for them. They play Ottawa tonight.
Yeah, real quick. Will, do you like shootouts? Because I do, and I feel like I'm always the minority here. I actually do enjoy it, maybe because I just like the intensity of the moment. But I know a lot of people don't for a lot of the reasons that D-Mac just listed off.
I like shootouts when my team wins. So, yeah, last night's shootouts were great, right? Georgie, my guy. More shootouts, baby. Hopefully go to a shootout every night, Georgie's in goal. Nah, in all seriousness, Rachel, they don't want to award just 1 point each. They want someone to get that second point. So I'm with D-Mac. Let's extend overtime a little bit and really try to get that winner in overtime and use shootout as an absolute last resort. But the NHL will always reward 2 points for a winner. They're never going to go back to a system where each team gets 1 point for a tie. So shootouts are kind of a necessary evil.
Yeah, but at this exact same time, then we hear the...
I don't like...
Oh, go ahead, D-Mac.
Well, I was just going to say, the reason I really hate shootouts because of Jared Bednar. Because he dismisses them as stupid. And so I went into last year fine with shootouts, and then I just was listening to Bedsy. And the more that he talked about, like, they really have no strategy. They do watch some film on goaltenders. They do. So they go over it with their coaches. If they get in the shootout, here's what you do. But he doesn't like them. He thinks they're dumb. So if Bedsy thinks they're dumb, I think they're dumb. You know, he won a Stanley Cup, so I'm following him. Plus, he dresses well.
Okay, so how would you guys feel about 3 points then? So if you win in regulation, you get 3, but if you win in overtime, you would get 2 points.
Man, that's really going to inflate the point totals. I'd have to wrap my mind around how that would look in an entire season for a team like the Avs, because there's a lot of times where you're just trying to survive to get to overtime, so you guarantee yourself the point. That would make for a lot more aggressive hockey in the last 5 minutes of regulation as teams chased all 3 points. So, Rachel, I don't know. It's already complicated, and to me that just makes it more complicated. I think we're fine as it is with a little bit of an overtime tweak. But as far as the points are distributed, I'm cool with how they are now.
I mean, I love the concept that winning in 60 minutes has more value than on a dopey penalty shot. I mean, I think that's logical thinking. But I agree with Will on that one. You'd have to, I don't know. I don't know how that would play out over the course of the season and who that helps. You'd have to dig into it. I mean, they're not changing anything. So listen, they won. That's great. They played great. They got 4 out of 4 points on the road trip. Nathan McKinnon is telling Pierre LeBrun that, you know, look out for us. Nobody wants to play us. And Pierre wears the 3-piece suit no matter what. In Tampa, when it was like 1,000 degrees, that cat was still wearing a 3-piece suit. Okay. So he's Mr. Hockey. Nate told Mr. Hockey that, you know, people should be afraid of the Avalanche. And I love that attitude. I love it. And I think it sucks losing Lehkonen. But if McKinnon, who's been the second best player in the NHL next to Connor McDavid, wants to turn up the heat on the rest of the NHL to get the boys going, I'm all for it.
All right. Well, we had a conversation yesterday, DMAC, about the Denver Broncos with Mike Evans. And I had said, what's the number? And it kind of made this conversation start happening in my head of what is the number for Russell Wilson next year in order to save his job? Like, there's going to be a cutoff line. I said 6, 7, and you guys are both like, oh, no, he's gone for that point. But okay, so does he have to win 13 games in order to save his job? Or what is going to be the cutoff number for Russell Wilson? Or is it stats? Is it just yards and touchdowns? What is going to be the cutoff for Russell Wilson in order to keep his job next year? Because we know he's technically on a 1-year tryout with Sean Payton.
It depends how many games he plays and how he looks in those games. So knock on wood, because I don't wish ill will. It's 17 games. If he's healthy and plays for 17 games, if they don't get to the playoffs, it's time to move on. It's the second year, and you have more value on you than anybody ever. We'll see what happens with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. But right now, there's more value put on Russell Wilson than any player ever in the history of the NFL. Mm-hmm. To not get to the playoffs in the second year when so much has been changed to help you do so would be a dramatic failure. It gets sticky if he's hurt and misses games, and then you get into some weird territory. Mm-hmm. Then you get into, well, how does he look during those games? Where are we going? What do we believe? At the end of the day, there has to be something that happens this year that makes you believe he can beat Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game. And if he doesn't, then you should move on. The end. It's pretty simple.
Will, for you?
Well, they haven't had a winning season since 2016. Yep. So we got to frame it in that context too, right? So does that mean 9-8 is good enough? Does that mean 10-7 is good enough? We're so spoiled as Broncos fans with our 3 Lombardi trophies and all our AFC West titles that we're forgetting how far this franchise has fallen over the last 6 seasons. So for me, I think 9-8, he probably does keep his job, and they continue to see that investment moving forward because you go from 5-12 with the incompetent Nathaniel Hackett to 9-8 with the extremely competent Sean Payton. You project that another year forward, 4 more wins, that would put you at 13-4. I'm not saying that's the trajectory that they're going to happen, but guys, they have hit so rock bottom that if he goes 9-8, or better yet, 10-7, and you say, oh, well, they didn't make the playoffs, or oh, they were a 7 seed and they lost in the first round, we have to move on, then you may start another 6-year rebuild. That's not a process I want to go through. Winning record, and Russell Wilson keeps his job.
Okay. See, I'm at this point, and I'm seeing the comments. People are saying, playoff or bust. Troy B says, what if he plays great and the D ends up being the problem? Does Russ take the brunt anyways? It's definitely an interesting conversation, but I think if Russ puts up solid numbers, no matter what. I mean, you guys, it's still a very large cap number for him next year just to say, you're gone regardless. So I'm kind of with Will, DMAC, where I think 9-8, and even if he doesn't look spectacular, there's still hope that you keep him and you can save a little bit of money there. DMAC gives me this little smile,
yeah. I mean, it's at this time next year, 5 days after the new start of the year, you have to commit to a $55 million contract for 2025. That's the way that works. Yep. So I don't think just a winning record is good enough. I mean, the goal is to win a freaking Super Bowl, okay? Listen, you got Matthew Stafford with the Rams. You won a Super Bowl. You got Tom Brady with the Bucs. You won a Super Bowl. You got Peyton Manning with the Broncos. You made the playoffs, and then in year 2, you at least made a Super Bowl. You can't just say, we're going to spend more value and capital on Russell Wilson than any of those guys and be okay with just a winning record. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you to spend all that money. I didn't tell George Payton to sign that foolish contract last year. It's a high risk. It was like the riskiest thing you could ever do. And when you had a chance to do what made more common sense, and it was a more conservative approach to building a team, you picked a cornerback instead of a quarterback. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you decided to take this gargantuan risk. You did. So you should have to face the consequences if you can't make it work. And they have sunk hundreds of millions of dollars into this sucker right now in free agency. And they do have a backup plan. It's Jarrett Stidham. It is. He is their backup plan because they won't have the money if they move on from Russell Wilson to get another big free agent in here. No, they'd have to make it work with a younger guy that they could secure for a lower amount of money. guys, this is a nutty plan. It's about as nutty as you get. The risk is absolutely absurd. So everybody better hope that it really was Hackett. And once we get Rodgers to the Jets, whenever that happens, guys, you realize the Jets and Hackett are coming to Denver. And what a way to open the season that would be.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's talk about it. The Aaron Rodgers news, and there's a whole lot. Like, there were just so many storylines that came out of yesterday with just Aaron Rodgers alone. But why is it he comes out and saying Nathaniel Hackett essentially is the reason why he wants to go to the Jets because he meant so much to him as a coach, yada, yada, yada. Why didn't Aaron Rodgers want to come to Denver then? Like, that's the question that keeps sticking out in my mind. Okay, the coach that you love so much that had such an impact on your career was the head coach here, and you chose to not come to the Denver Broncos. Why is that?
See, I disagree with that concept. I think the Packers didn't trade him to the Broncos because they wanted one more year of Rodgers. I don't think it was Aaron's decision, at least not how I read it.
Well, and see, I look at it as he has talked so much about retirement. You know, he was going to retire again this year, and he had said that he was going to walk away last year if, like, he didn't get moved. Like, there were just so many things. Granted, all of it can totally be a lie, too. It's just, like, why was there so much speculation about him coming to the Denver Broncos that it didn't end up happening, even though his head coach was, or his favorite offensive coordinator was here?
Because the Packers didn't want to trade a back-to-back MVP.
But then
like they still thought their Super Bowl window was open with Rodgers. They realized this year it was closed, so now they're more willing to move on. I think it was more that Green Bay was not going to let him play the 2022 season in any other uniform, and George Payton screwed up by hiring Nathaniel Hackett a year too early.
I think we had a little bit of a combo meal, though, too. I know what you're saying, Will, and ultimately it was the Packers that decided to do a deal or not do a deal. I bet you anything the Packers are kicking themselves now. But like Will said, Rodgers was a two-time MVP. And don't forget, they tried to get him 2 years ago. Not just last year, 2 years ago. That was the Mark Schlereth, it's imminent, it's almost going to happen. That was 2 years ago once they got Teddy Bridgewater. They got Teddy Bridgewater because eventually they lost out on Aaron Rodgers. That's why that disaster went like it did. But that being said, you're not necessarily wrong, Rachel, because the one thing that Aaron Rodgers didn't do is make a big stink about it. You know, he actually had other people do his dirty work. It was up to the Packers, but Rodgers could have forced the deal. So I actually don't know why Rodgers hemmed and hawed. Maybe he just thought his chances of winning with the Packers were better than the Broncos at the end of the day. But I think Aaron Rodgers kind of, misleads people. I don't think he's honest about a lot of things. And I think he's just, he's a weasel turd. I don't know how else to put it. He's a weaselly dude. And he does turd-like things. So here we go. It's not that he can't play quarterback, but he's done more to press the deal. It was on the Packers. It was. The Packers had to make the trade, and they decided to not do it. Mm-hmm. But if he had just publicly come out and made a bigger deal about things, then he could have easily forced them to do what a lot of athletes have forced their teams to do. And he didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, there was talk last year, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but he was still saying that he may retire last year because he was unhappy with Green Bay.
He is so full of crap on that. He loves the attention. He has no life. He has no wife, no kids, no relationship with his family. He's in good shape. He likes to golf and go into darkness huts. This guy is not going anywhere. He cannot get away from the attention. He is the most, you want to talk about a narcissistic phony. That's Aaron Rodgers. The quirky thing about Rodgers, though, despite those traits, is that he has an ability to sort of, con teammates and bond with guys like he's a real guy. He's like a con man, Russ is just completely different. Russ is just like the Manchurian Candidate. It really feels like Russ is just being set up by other people to do their bidding. He's like a wind-up doll that just spits out catchphrases. Rodgers is the pilot on his ship. He's driving his own bus, and I don't think Russ even has the keys.
Okay, D-Mac, you would think Aaron Rodgers like kicked your cat or something with the way that you talk about him. It's an interesting
Well,
conversation for sure.
and real quick, DMAC said there was no way he was going to retire last year. There actually was one very real way he was going to retire, and that is if he got the job hosting Jeopardy, which he was in contention for. I'm being dead serious. If Jeopardy had given Aaron Rodgers the job and paid him, $30 million a year to host that game show, he absolutely would have left the NFL and hosted Jeopardy. That would have kept the spotlight on him, kept the attention on him. You two are both smiling. I firmly believe he would have retired for the full-time Jeopardy hosting gig after Alex Trebek unfortunately passed away.
What is egomaniac?
Record we think for the Jets next year.
Nathaniel Hackett's on the team. So Nathaniel Hackett's the coordinator. 9-8.
I hope they're 3-14. I hope they fall apart. I hope they're terrible. But they probably have a season very similar to what the Packers had this year. They're probably 8-9 or 9-8. That AFC East is no joke. I mean, you got, Allen. Well, we'll see with the Patriots. I guess we really don't know with the Patriots. All right. They probably make the stupid playoffs. That's what they probably do. And if they make the playoffs, that is going to be tough sledding for everybody who thought Hackett was a problem. And to realize, wow, it could have been done. Had you got Rodgers with Hackett, you could have made the playoffs. That would suck for Broncos fans. So I'll root for Broncos fans on this one. And against Rodgers, I'll go 4-13.
Okay. Yes or no? The Broncos beat the Jets when they come to the Mile High City this fall.
Woo! What week is it?
We don't know yet.
If it's early, it's the Jets. If it's late, maybe it's the Broncos. Well,
listen, we're going to get the Nathaniel Hackett, Vance Joseph matchup. The battle between two coaches that Broncos country did not like as their head coach. One is back in Denver as DC. The other's in New York as OC. One of those guys is going to get the last laugh, get the revenge. For as much as I didn't like Vance Joseph as a head coach, I despised Nathaniel Hackett, not as a guy, but as a head football coach. Vance Joseph, better football coach than Nathaniel Hackett. Give me the Broncos to beat the Jets.
Okay. Can I pass on my own question? Because I don't know.
No, Rachel.
No, tiebreaker.
No, Rachel.
I'm going to take the Jets.
Why?
Because I think Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson is.
Good enough. That's what's wrong with that.
Down logic.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Let us know in the comments what you think, if you think the Broncos or the Jets will win. I do think, though, it also depends, kind of like D-Mac said, even though we don't have the schedule yet, when it is. If it's like week 1 or week 2 or week 3, whatever, I do think it's definitely going to be the Jets. But maybe the Broncos start to figure it out early, and then they have a long stretch of winning towards the end of the season. Who knows? I have hope. I have hope. Will Peterson, what are you writing for DenverSports.com this week?
Well, it's been a crazy week, right, with all these Broncos free agency moves, all the Avalanche news. That's been kind of my focus. But my column on Tuesday, which was sort of my big column of the week, I do a lot of quick hitting news stories, was that Greg Penner has proved all along he's not afraid to spend. And these people who come up with this narrative that, they don't have a new stadium yet, or, they didn't pay Draymond Jones, well, that's been blown out of the water because they've spent almost $250 million in free agency. It's the most in the NFL thus far. Cash is king, baby, because they're giving all these signing bonuses up front to help them circumnavigate, I think is the word, the salary cap, because that's what Sean Payton did in New Orleans for years and years and years. You talk about some cap gymnastics happening in Denver. How do you spend $250 million and only have $40 million of it go against the cap? That's because Sean Payton's a genius at this stuff. I loved and respected Pat Bowlen, and we all miss Mr. B. But Mr. B never had this kind of cash that the Walton Penner family ownership group has, and it's already paying dividends to have the richest owners in the NFL. Greg Penner, this is not a toy. He's here to spend. He's here to spend big, and I give him major kudos for what he's done the first 72 hours of free agency.
This is exactly what I wanted to see D-Mac because he just giggled. And so D-Mac, go for it.
A new stadium would cost upwards to $3 to $4 billion. Never mind $200 million. Money that you've got to spend anyway. Big deal. Listen, somebody cuts my lawn, I hand him $20. Maybe if I'm feeling generous, I'm rich, I give him 50, and he really likes me a lot. It's no big deal to just take your wallet out and spend money. What a big deal is to sacrifice something in time. Time means something to billionaires, not cash. The way this thing went down is that the Paytons went into Carrie and Greg like little kids showing their, parents their homework, and their parents were like, "Oh, isn't that cute? Here's $100 because you did your homework." Instead of $100, it was $200 million. But I mean, big deal. You said we want this guy, that guy, and the other guy. And they said, "Oh, nice job. You did your homework. Here you go." I'll start being impressed when they make personal sacrifices and start doing blueprints for a new facility. Other than that, it's welcome to Wrexham, buddy. We're just spending money. And Rob and Ryan are just sitting there like they know soccer. They don't.
See, I so disagree. And we had this conversation earlier this week. So, Will, I'm glad you're going to be a part of it. But I see your point on it, D-Mac, but I don't think that means that the Denver Broncos are a toy because they're not going to personally build the stadium either. Like, they are going to have a part of it and just decide, oh, hey, we're going to buy this plot of land and we're going to build it. Like, Will, help me out here.
Well, we don't know they're not going to build a stadium. They've owned the team for 8 months. They spent $100 million on upgrades to Empower Field at Mile High. They spent $400,000 on worthless turf. They spent $250 million in free agency. And oh, by the way, guys, they spent $100,000 to send Colorado School of Mines students to the national title game. They have spent money at every turn. So just because they have a lot of it doesn't mean we should just dismiss what they've done. There's a lot of people in town with a lot of money who don't spend it. There's an owner across the street who can't get his games on TV for 5 years. Greg Penner has spent the money at every single turn, and I'm not going to insult him just because he's a billionaire and say it's $100 to mow someone's lawn. No, this is a lot more than $100. This is a big deal. This is a commitment to win.
Well, first of all, the price to mow my lawn just quadrupled. It went from 20 to 50 to 100. Listen, I don't get extra credit if I order DoorDash and I tip 20%, not 18%. It's just money. The money that you already have. 8 months is plenty of time to understand what you're doing. And it goes back to the basic reasoning of why did they buy this team in the first place? By the way, that's a question nobody can quite figure out. Why did they do it? To me, it's still coming across like a midlife crisis for Greg Penner, who might have been just a little bit bored by boring Walmart meetings. Well, you got something sexy and fun to do on the weekends. And Rob Walton, who's he? He really sunk the money into it. He mispronounced Roger Goodell's name. And other than that, I don't know. I don't know what the guy's got to do with anything. Listen, I'm not against billionaire owners, okay? I am pro-billionaire owners because you do need to do the things that they've done to the stadium and spend money on players. I think that is amazing. But again, I don't get a pat on the back because I gave my DoorDash person 20% instead of 18%. I don't. I probably just should because it's the right thing to do.
Okay, so then are the Denver Nuggets, the Colorado Avalanche, the the Colorado Rapids, Arsenal, are those all toys for the Cronkies then?
Hell no. That's their no.
What have the Cronkies done for Denver recently?
Rachel, that's their business. Josh Kroenke is in charge of these teams on a daily basis in the office managing things. No, they are a professional sports ownership group. And with that, they also have hundreds of employees that work within that organization. I know the Walton Penner Group does as well with the Broncos. But no, there's a wild difference. And don't forget, Stan Kroenke did build the $5 billion stadium. And it was $5 billion. It was budgeted like $2 billion. It turned out to be $5.
Okay, so the Rams aren't.
And by the way, to talk about the Cronkies in a negative light just because of the TV deal and not mention that they've won a Stanley Cup and they've got the top team in the Western Conference, which they pay max contracts to, Will, is a little disingenuous.
Whoa, but that's not fair. So the Rams aren't a toy, but the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche sure don't have practice facilities or anything of that light.
No, but they have. Well, I don't know about the Rapids.
No, but we're not talking about
what.
what's happening on the field, DMAC, because the Walton Penner group could just be building up to hopefully win a championship for the Denver Broncos. You said that doesn't count. It's what they're doing outside of what's on the field.
The Cronkies have already done it. Listen, are they a little behind on a training facility here? Sure. Do the Rapids have a nice place to play? They have for years. Yeah, I get it. They need to do better with a training facility. But you know what? At the end of the day, if you can build a championship team, that matters more than anything. And sure, their eyes may be on the Super Bowl prize and the English Premier League prize as well. But it's not a toy to the Cronkies, not at all. I mean, this is what they do. We'll see with the Walton Penner group, Rachel and Will. We'll see. Until I see that full commitment.
But it's been 8 months, and you're criticizing them for not having facility plans. Stan's hockey team has practiced in an arcade for 22 years, but that's okay. Like, you know, if I'm the disingenuous one for bringing up the TV, which actually does drive millions of people in Colorado crazy, so I'm not sure how that's disingenuous, how can you criticize the Walton Penners for 8 months, no action on a facility or a stadium, but little Billy's playing laser tag next to the best player in the world for 22 years, and that's totally cool.
Because I'm not saying I'm saying that I haven't seen enough from them to figure out what they're doing with it yet. I'm not giving them credit for doing things that are easy to do. Once I see something that's difficult to do and a bigger commitment to things, I'll be all for it. But that being said, again, I said it's good that we have billionaire owners that are willing to spend their money. That's cool. And, you know, there's nothing disingenuous about it. I know you love the laser rink, you know, sort of comments, and they got to do better. I've said it. I've been open about it. But in the shadow of building a facility away from laser tag, there's a Stanley Cup trophy that's hovering about.
But what we talked earlier this week, there's a difference between what goes on the field, on the ice, on the court, whatever, and what you do outside of that.
Well, I mean, listen, that's how I feel about it. I can't believe we're in a debate about billionaires right now and what it means. But listen, you want to give them credit? Fine. You gave them credit for spending money. Okay, I say big deal. You know, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I look at what Cronky's done with the Rams and Arsenal, and I like where they are with the Nuggets and the Avs, although you're right, they need a better practice facility. And yes, the TV deal is a serious thing, but that's another billionaire against multi-billionaire dispute. It's got nothing to do with are you taking things seriously. That is just a battle of bitchin' billionaires.
I'm just saying, I cited 4 examples in the last 8 months where the Walton Penner family ownership group has spent significant and meaningful money for 4 different reasons. Again, the stadium upgrades, the turf at the stadium, sending School of Mine students to the national title game, and $250 million 72 hours into free agency. That wasn't some sort of anti-Kroenke tirade by any stretch. My point was, though, that the other 2 teams in town haven't been on TV for 5 years. I think Greg Penner would have figured out how to get his teams on TV, given that he spent money at every single turn. That's all I'm saying.
I seriously doubt that. What experience does Greg Penner have in regional sports networks and broadcasting? I mean, 0. He has less experience. He's still trying to figure out who Quinn Miners is. He doesn't know anything about TV rights and broadcasting. That's not his bag. He has no experience in that department.
Okay, before I get angry, we're gonna switch to a less what type of topic do I want to use? We're just gonna switch topics because I'm like getting angry just even thinking about this conversation.
Who are you angry at, Rachel?
I'm just angry because I think it's BS. D-Mac, if you were trying to watch your kid play baseball, are you telling me that you're going to try for like a year and then you're just going to give up because you're just like, well, I can't do it. Like, I'm going to have to pay money or we're just not going to get the same rates that we're going to get. Like, I think the whole Comcast dispute with altitude is a load of BS. It's ridiculous that it's been going on for this long, but like that's a whole other conversation. That's why I just don't even want to get into it. Like there's no
different conversation. And you know what? I'm actually very ill-equipped to go through it because I don't know the nuances of the in and out. I'm the idiot who has Comcast and Fubo. So I guess the joke's on me because I just gave up. And you gave me this year with Fubo a legitimate, easy, non-illegal, non-Evoca way to do it. And we're just big Fubo fans. I can't lie. But I'm an idiot because I got my whole life tied into Xfinity with my phone and cable and other sorts of crap. So I'm a total moron, and I'm the sucker of all suckers. And, I don't do anything. I don't travel. I have no life, so I can afford to do this crap. But for the average person, I understand why you don't have it. It's absurdly expensive if you bundle all that crap together. So I'm here just to say I'm a complete moron. You know who won? Comcast, Cronky, I'm the sucker. You won, I lost.
No Fubu won.
I literally this year just gave up. And I'm spending money that I'm sure is better spent on other things.
Okay.
And
I appreciate the laugh following because I was getting really pissed off.
When April comes around, and the games are all on national TV for the playoffs and for the Nuggets and the Avs, bye-bye, Fubo. See you later, alligator.
Well, and you go to all the Nuggets and Avs games, so you're really just paying that for road games, right? And as DMAC, I believe, goes offline, maybe he got sick of me.
You got a phone call, probably. Anyways.
Oh, you got a phone call.
We're on the same
But
page.
Rachel, he's paying that Fubo. There he is. You're paying it for just the road games, Darren. You're paying it for. Yeah.
I'll let you into my personal. My wife, she is the biggest Avalanche hockey fan you can imagine, and she loves the TV show Survivor. So I win because she loves having Fubo and watching Survivor. And I'm not going to lie, it's all right, boys, I'm doing a commercial. But we're going on spring break next week, and it's going to be awesome that we can just fire up the Nuggets and the Avs games when we want, wherever we are, as long as we have Wi-Fi. I'm not going to lie. I think, obviously, if we're getting into a deeper conversation, this is the future of sports on TV. Mm-hmm. This is where it's going to go. So that's probably bad news for regional sports networks. Look what's happening or about to happen with the Rockies, by the way. That's about to become a complete mess, too. And, these teams, Frankie and all, listen, man, I think they're going to lose. They're going to lose this fight because there's just nowhere for them to win. So that's how I got it broken down. That's what I think is going to happen.
Okay. DMAC, did you ever set up the Fire Stick I gave you for Christmas?
I did. It's awesome. I love it.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic. I can do everything.
Okay, I just want to make sure Kim could watch it on the big screen and not just on a phone.
No, well, she's got it. Now, don't forget, she's got a laptop. Both my sons have a laptop, and I don't. So that's another. I have a lot of things that aren't mine, like cars, computers, all sorts of stuff. I mean, I pay for it. I just don't have it.
Okay. Fair enough.
You guys want to get kids?
I don't know what you just said. Whoever called you, is it somebody that works for us? Because they really messed up your Wi-Fi over there. Hey, there he goes, Will. You never know. Oh, now you're here. Who called you?
Oh, that was weird. I just said before you guys get married and have kids, just think about how much.
Sick. All right. Well, we're going to kick DMAC. We're going to bring in Jake Shapiro to talk a little bit about the Denver Nuggets. DMAC, have a wonderful Thursday, my friend.
You're saying goodbye to me?
I'm saying goodbye to you.
Bye.
See you, DMAC.
DMAC. He's going to go take his call. We're going to bring in Jake Shapiro to talk a little bit about the Nuggets because injuries are playing a bigger factor than maybe we think, Jake.
Yeah, and again, I wrote this last night for DenverSports.com, and boss man, editor, wonderful person, but most people hate him, James Marilat, did not. Well, I mean, judging off of Twitter, man, I don't know. I love him. I love the guy.
Twitter is not real life. That's your daily reminder.
Right, exactly. Most people saw the headline, which was actually written by Will, a little into how the sausage is made, and I didn't mind it because it was a good headline. And say, hey, everything going on here, Jake's blaming on injuries. I'm not. I think the number one issue right now with the Nuggets is a combination of Michael Malone's messages being lost, and number two is the effort. Like, those are the big problems. But there are some underlying things going on with the Nuggets, with injuries. Jamal Murray is shooting worse from the field over the last 10 games than he shot from deep in the first 45 games of the season. What happened between game 45 and game 46? That's when he sat out for those several weeks with the knee injury. He's been out of the lineup, a couple times since, and he's been on the injury report with that same knee injury. We also have Zeke Naji, who's been missing. Vlatko Cancar missed a handful of games. The Nuggets' best bench lineup of the year was with Zeke Naji and Vlatko Cancar and Christian Braun playing. For some reason, Christian Braun hasn't been playing consistently the last few weeks. My overall point here is not that injuries are to blame. It's that when you factor in, okay, there's a handful of things going on, and KCP's missing 1-3 a game compared to when he wasn't before, and yada, yada, yada. Every game in the NBA comes down to the fourth quarter and a couple possessions. Like 45% of the Nuggets games have come down to less than 5 points with 5 minutes left. So when we're talking about, okay, Zeke Naji's on the floor and instead it's Jeff Green, and Will knows this. Jeff Green's a minus 15 every night. Zeke Naji might only be a minus 8. That's significant because these games are so close. And what's the worst part about this is now, because of these injuries and the problems with the bench, is the stagger lineups when Nikola Jokic is out there with a bunch of bench guys are now bad as well. So you're actually wasting minutes of your starters as well as wasting the bench minutes, and you're just losing across the floor. We'll see if they can fix it tonight.
Yeah, they take on the worst team in the NBA, the Detroit Pistons. Will, what's your take on the Nuggets and their recent struggles?
Well, I think Jake hit on the two biggest points, right? The number one is that Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon just aren't right now. Yeah. They're both still clearly hurt. Jamal, both knees are bothering him. It feels like every game we get an update. Oh, it's the non-surgically repaired one, and then the other night against the Nets or the afternoon, it was the surgically repaired one. Like, he just got bad knees at this point. That's concerning. And Aaron Gordon, he looks nowhere near like the all-star he looked like in the first half of the season. The bounce is gone. The energy's gone. That may not be his fault because he's hurt, but if he is hurt, then they need to shut him down before the playoffs, because we need the version of Aaron Gordon that we saw in October, November, December, January, not the version of Aaron Gordon that's been out there since he returned. So that's the biggest thing, number one. Number two, guys, Thomas Bryant and Reggie Jackson have been absolute busts, right? Mm-hmm. They were supposed to improve the bench, and they have not improved the bench at all. I think Bones Highland had to go. He always had to go. I'm not quipping for Bones Highland or wishing we had Bones Highland. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, you needed to go get a guy like Mason Plumlee at the deadline, a proven guy who was having a great year. And frankly, you should have called the Washington Wizards and begged for Monte Morris back for Bones Highland. That would have worked as well. The Wizards aren't going anywhere. So if you had Monte Morris and Mason Plumlee, I'd love this bench. You have Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant. This bench, not very good. Those are all your problems right now.
And real quickly, one thing that did happen the same time Bones Highland was traded was when Zeke Naji went down. So I'm not going to completely write off the bench yet, because I would like to see Zeke Naji with Reggie Jackson instead of Thomas Bryant. But overall, the Thomas Bryant trade has not been a good one.
So now the question is, if we feel like Aaron Gordon's not playing to his potential, which he's not, Jamal Murray's having an injury every single night, but the chemistry and something else has been off, do you shut them down in hopes that they can just get healthy and find that chemistry again? Or do you find the chemistry and the ability to win some games again, but risk the injury factor?
None of this is all that important yet. It's starting to become important again because the Nuggets have lost a significant amount of ground in the West over the last week. Like, they went from 7 to 4 games really quickly. And with 4 more games left on an East Coast road trip, and then 2 of the best teams in the East coming to Denver right after that, and 2 matchups with Phoenix down the stretch, and a matchup with Sacramento down the stretch, you're looking at this, and it's no longer which games can you rest guys and load manage guys. You can maybe afford to do that 1 or 2 more times this season, including in this doubleheader they have in New York this weekend. You could probably rest guys for one of those games. You can't really do that. You played your hand. You had to pick a lane of either playing guys or resting guys, not doing this half-ass thing of, oh, I'm gonna take it easy with guys that are playing, because look at how that happened. This league is awesome. Every single team has a guy that can beat you. Keldon Johnson almost beat the Mavericks last night after he beat the Nuggets the other night. The Rockets have beaten the Celtics and the Lakers, I think, in the last few days. Like this league, you cannot take nights off if you're going to take nights off with your guys. Like, I'd rather play Christian Brown 35 minutes than have a half-assed Jamal Murray in there. Like, that's just how it is. So, yeah, they needed to pick a lane. Now they're stuck, and they're gonna have to play hard. They're gonna have to play hard to end this season. The nice thing is hopefully with your first round matchup, it is Dallas, it is Minnesota, it is a young Oklahoma City team or something like that, and you can ease your way into the playoffs. But for now, the last 13 games of the season are going to be a little bit of a fight.
See, let me lay something out for you guys. If the 4-5 is Golden State versus Phoenix, is it really the worst thing in the world if the Nuggets drop to the 2 seed? You guys remember a few years ago when Michael Malone infamously had the game up in Portland where he manipulated those standings, baby, so he could get the matchups he wanted in the playoffs. Jake says they're going to have to play hard the final 13 games. I'm kind of whispering this, but do they really need to play hard? Is the 2 seed the worst thing in the world? If Phoenix and Golden State are the 4-5, I'd much rather be the 2 than the 1. Take that to the bank.
Oh, I like that take, though, Will. Actually, that's a really solid point there, Jake.
Yeah, and looking at it right now on my phone, Phoenix is almost locked in at being the 4. And Golden State is most likely going to be the 5. They actually switched last night with the Clippers. What concerns me is you could very well end up with the 2-7, which would be the first play-in winner. And the first play-in winner it might end up being the Lakers. We don't know who it's going to be. I'm not concerned with any of Minnesota, Dallas, Oklahoma City, the Lakers, Jazz, Pelicans, or Portland. Any of those teams that the Nuggets are playing, they're fine. If it's New Orleans with Zion, that gets a little scary. So you're right, Will, in saying that the 2 does not significantly affect the Nuggets, particularly if it's Sacramento who gets home court throughout the playoffs, because I have no doubts that the Nuggets can beat them in a 7-game series. But if it's you have to play a Game 7 in Memphis for the Western Conference, that's when it starts to get scary, and the Nuggets are so much better at home.
We're getting way ahead of ourselves if we're thinking Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, when this looks like a team right now that may not win a series or 2. If I have to cross the bridge of Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals when I get there in Memphis because I didn't have to play Golden State or Phoenix in round 2, sign me the heck up.
But you're talking about you would have to make that decision beforehand. So you would have to make the decision of, hey, either we're going to go all out for continuing to keep home court throughout the playoffs, or we're going to try and drop ourselves to the 2.
If it's Phoenix Golden State, you should try to drop yourself to the 2. 100%.
Right now it's Phoenix LA. And if the Nuggets play the Clippers in the playoffs, the Nuggets have the Clippers number, but something quietly developing, and no one dislikes Russell Westbrook like me. Russell Westbrook has been awesome for the Clippers. And they look like a completely different team. But Will, if the Nuggets run into the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs and the Nuggets have home court advantage, I'd feel very confident about the Nuggets. The Phoenix Suns do scare me big time.
Well, I guess to real quick just put a ball on this, it depends on which version of the Nuggets we're getting, right? Because I think all our heads are clouded by the last 4-game Nuggets. Yes, if it's the Nuggets from a month ago, I like them against the Clippers. I like them against the Warriors. It's only Kevin Durant and the Suns that scare me. If it's the Nuggets from the last 4 games, the Warriors scare me, the Clippers scare me, the Suns scare me, the Pelicans with Zion scare me, the Lakers if LeBron and AD are back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it
Bro,
totally
the Jazz should scare you.
Yeah.
The Jazz should scare you if it's the Nuggets of the last 4 games. They just lost to the Spurs.
Oh, the Houston Rockets should scare us.
Right.
If it's the last 4 games. Yeah.
We just have to assume that this is not their team, right? Like, I think it's, I think it's natural human reaction. Like, let's say we all completed a big project at work and it got accomplished and we got all A's on it. It was great. The next, couple days of work might be a little bit relaxed. And that's kind of what happened here. I'm hoping.
Okay, so then tonight, like I said, they take on the worst team in the NBA, the Detroit Pistons. The Nuggets are heavy favorites for this one. Jake, who you got?
Taking the Nuggets. Name a Piston. Someone name a Piston.
Cade Cunningham.
He's not playing. He's been hurt for months.
Isaiah Stewart.
He also might not play. Jaden Ivey.
All right, but your challenge was name a Piston, not name an active Piston.
You're right.
Well,
listen, Detroit is getting a lot of points tonight. Nuggets aren't covering a big number. That's all I'm going to say. They may win, but with how pathetic the Nuggets have been over the last week, double-digit favorites, that is a bit of a shocker to me.
Wow, okay. I'm also going to take the Nuggets. I think they're going to have a bounce-back game. I think Michael Malone is going to say, whatever we've been doing the past couple of nights, it's not happening, and let's just hope everybody stays injury-free on that point. Jamal Murray is probable for tonight's game, correct? But we have not heard if he is for sure playing, Jake?
Yeah, probable's almost certainly going to play because questionable plays more times than not.
Yeah.
And just to wrap up the Pistons, Alec Burks, good player, former CU Buff, had a great run in the Big 12 tournament against Missouri, particularly. He might put up some points for the Pistons. Jaden Ivey might be back. They're getting some good stuff from James Wiseman, who came over the trade deadline. But this should be an easy Nuggets win. I'm kind of with Will and saying they're probably not covering tonight. But, that's all right. Just get back on the win stretch. If they can get a win here and then they're going to play a really feisty Knicks team and then they play the Nets or vice versa, get one of those 2 wins and you're coming back all right. If you finish this road trip 2-3, not the end of the world.
Okay. I was going to pull it up to see what do they need? 15?
But if you lose tonight, to one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NBA, the panic meter goes from, an 8 to a 10. You can't even see my arm. It will be, listen, guys, they and the Avs both play at 5 o'clock tonight, right? So a lot of eyes on the NCAA tournament, early Nuggets and Pistons games. But if they lose, go check Twitter around 7:30. No one will be tweeting about the tourney. No one will be tweeting about the Avs. It will be full-blown panic about the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, that will be the truth right there. Will, as always, an absolute pleasure. Jake, great job on the article too, and huge shout out to DMAC for always hanging out with us and dealing with technical difficulties, and to everybody in the comments. We also appreciate you guys and have so much fun with you. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. for another episode of Coffee Break. We will see you then. Go Mizzou Tigers for Will Peterson.
Yes, MIZ.
All right, everyone, we will see you later. Have a wonderful Thursday. Bye, everybody.